Hello, everyone. I want to talk to you about my little trick for responding to questions on an assessment, like a Zella. And so the question that I want to talk about, I just made up one. Um, this is the question. It says, "What are the qualities of a good teacher?" So qualities, those are positive adjectives to describe a good teacher. You've probably all had good teachers and bad teachers in your lifetimes. And so you can draw from those experiences, or maybe you've seen movies or read books with good or bad teachers. So we're going to come up with some reasons and examples of what makes a teacher good. It says use specific reasons and examples to support your answer. That just means we're not going to just write a single sentence and that's it. Okay. I think you already know that. Okay, so what I usually do is I start with, in my topic sentence, I start with my two reasons, or my two things that I'm going to talk about. Okay, so a good teacher is blah 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 and blah blah blah. Okay, all right, and then within the paragraph, as I'm giving my examples, I'm going to come up with fake stories. Okay, and maybe you have some true stories, some real stories, and that's fine too. Um, and I like to use quotes a lot, so I'm going to have my fake people, my fake teachers, maybe some fake students, make up some things, and they're really just strengthening my entire paragraph, so that from beginning to end, I'm essentially saying the same thing. I'm giving one clear, united message. Okay, and I want to have some transitions, maybe some good vocabulary, right? Because really, we just want to impress the reader, let them know, hey, ELL has been fun. I'm ready to move on. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and start with my topic sentence, and I really want to answer the question. The question says, "What are the qualities of a good teacher?" So maybe a good teacher is how about patient and hardworking? And I should say this, you don't want to say something like a good teacher is not lazy and hardworking, because um, it'll just be, all of my reasons will be too similar, right? But these are pretty different, right? You can be patient and lazy. You can be hardworking and impatient, right? So these are very different ideas. Um, but a good teacher, I think you could argue, should be both. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and start with my first one. So patient. Okay. So a good teacher is patient and hardworking. How about if I start with this first? You already know first, like first comma, second comma, third comma. So how about this one? First and foremost. Foremost means most important. First and foremost. Um, Good teachers. How about what's another word for good? How about effective teachers? Do you like that? No, Mr. Lang, I don't like it. I love it. Effective teachers are, I'm going to go with the first thing that I talked about, patient. Okay. By the way, starting a sentence like this, it helps me as the writer to be organized. Okay. All right. So then I can go into my story. Okay. So, how about, oops, 2 years ago, totally making this up. Okay. I had what kind of teacher? Math teacher. Okay. How about an algebra teacher? Now let's throw in a positive. Who was my algebra teacher? Actually, let me change that a little bit. My algebra teacher. Who was the algebra teacher? Mr. Green, because that's my favorite color. Okay, Mr. Green. My algebra teacher, Mr. Green, was very patient with me. I was not very good at math. I'm going to put a fanboy in there. What do you think? I was not very good at math, comma, and I had a terrible attitude. We understand what that means. I came in, I didn't want to learn anything, right? I had a terrible attitude. Okay? So we need to show that Mr. Green was a good teacher, and he was a good teacher because he was patient, okay? So he did not, if you're patient, you probably don't yell a lot. He didn't scream. He didn't throw things at me, right? We know the word instead, so it's kind of the opposite idea. Maybe he looked me in the eyes. And whispered, y equals mx plus b. No, you can do it. You can learn math. I know you can. He was extremely patient with me, right? So instead of very patient, I'm using extremely. Another word for extremely, incredibly, right? He was extremely patient with me. Okay. Okay, so here's how I know he was a good teacher. That year, my feelings about math changed. I was no longer, let's see. I was no longer upset about math problems or about doing math problems, completing math problems. Can I do a hotshot fact? How about with instead? Instead, I began to feel confident in my abilities. Okay, what would have happened if he were not patient? So back then he was patient, but if he had not been patient with me, how would I feel today? Okay. What does Mr. Green say? So he's essentially going to say something that I've already said, right? So Mr. Green says, now do you notice after a word like says or asks or states is another word for says, not states like the United States. Okay, what does he say? So I'm going to put a quotation mark here. Patience is the key to good teaching. Students won't give you a chance to teach them something if they feel that you don't have time for them or don't like them. right? When you're patient for someone, when you're patient, you're showing that you like the person, right? When you're impatient, you're kind of showing, hey, I don't have time for you. I don't like you. Okay. So do we agree with Mr. Wright? Mr. Green? Yes, we do, right? Mr. Green is right. Teachers should be patient. All right. So the transition that we used was first and foremost, right? So the other F word that I like that's okay for school is furthermore. So furthermore, teachers should be, I forget what I said, hardworking. Now, little trick for you. We gave an example with Mr. Green, right? He was very patient. If we want, we can do a non-example. What that means is I could come up with a story about a teacher who was the opposite of hardworking. What's the opposite of hardworking? Lazy, right? So how about this? 5 years ago, I had a very lazy teacher. Named, give me a name, Mr. Book. Okay, there we go. All right. What do lazy teachers do? Well, I think they show a lot of videos all the time. They just say, okay, good news, everyone. We're going to have a class party for the next 3 weeks. And he just goes through his whole list of Netflix movies that are appropriate for school, right? So every day, Mr. Book. Remember used to? Okay. I'll say this, Netflix movies. Okay, now what happens? It might be fun for a while to have a really lazy teacher, but what are the consequences of having a lazy teacher? Well, at the end of the year, or maybe going into the next year, you don't know anything. Okay, so maybe I can even say, I thought it was great. I loved Mr. Book. I thought this was amazing that he just showed us movies, right? So something I can say is something like this. To be honest, you heard that before? I was really happy to be in Mr. Book's class. Unfortunately means bad news. At the end of the year, we had to take, how about Azella? We had to take the Azella. I'm not going to say the Azella test because that final A means assessment. All right, so we had to take the Azella, and my English was actually worse than it was the year before. Oh no. My friend, now I'm going to put a little a positive here. Here's what I'm thinking. Maybe my friend was in a different class, right? I was with Mr. Book. My friend was with Mrs. Pencil, and that person had a hardworking teacher, right? And the result was my friend did better on Azella. Okay. All right. So my friend, give me a name. How about my friend Maria, okay, was in Mrs. Pencil's class. How about if I've already said unfortunately? How about fortunately? Oh, that doesn't look right. There we go. Fortunately for Maria, not for me, right? Fortunately for Maria was, I've already said extremely, right? I think I said extremely. Yep, there's extremely. So another word for very that I like is incredibly hardworking. So that year, Maria had to take a Zella, and because Mrs. Pencil worked so hard to teach her class, Maria was, now we love this word success or successful. How do you spell success? Success. That's the way you spell success. So Success. Now I'm going to add FUL, only one L for these words like beautiful, successful, wonderful. Okay. Maria was successful on a Zella. All right, now, what does Maria say about Mrs. Pencil? I've already said says. So how about Maria states, comma, quotation, I'm so grateful. We know grateful. Grateful is like thankful. You know this already, right? Grateful is GRATE, FUL, not GREAT. I'm so grateful that Mrs. Pencil worked so hard to teach me and my classmates. And maybe Maria was really jealous of me because, or of me because I had Mr. Book who just showed movies all the time. We were jealous of the students in Mr. Book's class until, hey, that's a white bus, right? Until most of us passed the Zella. I didn't have to be in his class anymore, or in special ELL classes anymore. All right, and so Maria thinks that every student deserves a hardworking teacher. How about that one? Every student. Now, when I say every, it's singular. So I'm going to add an S to the verb, so deserves. Let me know if you don't know what deserves means. Deserves means that it's what you should have, right? Deserves a hard-working teacher like Mrs. Pencil. Oh. Okay. Do I agree with Maria? Yeah, Maria is right. Hardworking teachers should be in every classroom. Do you agree? Yes. All right, now, my little trick for my final sentence. I have a transition word, and the acronym that I use is CITO. So you know mamacita, this is papacito. Okay, so clearly, indeed, truly, and obviously. Did I spell it right? I did, okay. So these are not the only transition words, but go ahead and start using these. And if you're really good and you pay me enough, I might teach you another one or two. Okay, so clearly, indeed, truly, obviously, we're going to use one of these It doesn't matter which one. They all mean pretty much the same thing. But these are nice words that help us to transition from that last reason or that last example of what a good teacher is to what the overall main idea of the paragraph is. I'm going to go with truly because it's the shortest, and I'm not a hardworking teacher. I'm a lazy teacher. Truly, students need. The whole thing was about good teachers, right? Good teachers who are both. I already forgot what my first one was, so I'm going to go back to my topic sentence. We're both patient and hardworking. That's what it's all about. And that is your whole paragraph. And I will save this on the classroom, and you can read the whole thing in its entirety. It might not be perfect, but I think we did a pretty good job. I'm going to stop now because I think my video is going to be too long if I don't. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.